passion that we learn, we were born with it.
But it's all about making men better.
Yeah.
So how many, you said that you do the 90-day thing before you decide if you're doing the year thing.
Yep.
So is this just as much for you guys to decide, you're not
Right.
cutting it, I don't want to work with you?
It's actually a fairly new thing we just started. So we used to like sell this thing from stage. It was $36,000. That was the only offer, take it or leave it. And we actually had a really high conversion in the 80% range. But then what we were seeing is like 90 days in or something, some guys weren't cutting it. So part of it is to protect the integrity of the container. And then also, again, it's a less frightening commitment. And the reality is the transformation that they go through in 90 days. Like I feel comfortable. So I have a general rule, like don't put anything into the marketplace that you're not prepared to like 10X back. So if I'm going to ask you for $30,000, I'm looking to give you $300K back in your left pocket. Like that's just a personal mission of mine because I think there's a lot of shitty people putting things in the marketplace. All that to say, this 90-day thing is $9K, and like there's not one person that's gone through it that wouldn't say it's valued well over $50,000 for, because you can't even calculate what it does for the certain apps. It's how do you calculate like a level 10 marriage where your wife's running her nails down your back and jumping your bones every time you walk in? How do you put $1 on that? Some people probably could.
So what you got to do is you got to get on your best Speedo. No.
Snakeskin.
Snakeskin. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the 90, to your point, the 90 days is like it's a dating. Like I'm dating you, you're dating me, and then we'll decide if you're a good fit. So and it's been difficult because Abundance says like, hey, I'm only going to offer invitations into the program from the guys that are a good fit. Whereas the pay the bills part of me, because I don't have another thing anymore. I used to always have a few different things going on. This is my baby now. So, I've had moments where I'll catch scarcity out, Nick coming in, where it's like, everyone gets an invite. You get a car, you know? So it's like, it's $36K for the year or $30,000 paid in full. And I know in 90 days who my whales are, if you want to say that, who could just drop the 30. And like, sometimes you're looking at the books like, well, we could use a $30K pop to keep the lights on,
Yeah.
But you have to continue to operate from a place of surrender and saying, hey, like whoever's supposed to hear the message will hear it. Whoever's supposed to step through was meant to step through, and you need to protecting the integrity of container is more important to me than like making a couple extra bucks. But it's been a bumpy ride. Like
what would you say is your biggest overhead in this, in what you're creating, what you're doing? I mean, you're going to create great experiences, so obviously.
Yeah, an event on average, like we just did one at Brad Lee's spot. I was on his podcast, and we used his event space, and we had him speak and stuff. That was our most pricey event because it was Vegas and it's all flashy. Evans Mill cost us about $45K to run an event there. But like I said, so when we first started, we were backed by the bank of like me leaving my other things, and so we actually did these events for free. And we were eating $50,000 a pop on these events, and now we're at a place where we've tightened up our deliverables to a point when you know what you have, you get through what I call proof of concept phase, then you can start to monetize it again professionally with integrity. So we charge $1,500 to $2,000, and our goal on the events, like Brad's event, we lost $16,000 walking in.
Right.
Because it was
he was 30, was he 30, 40? He's got to be going.
He didn't charge me $1. We got a pretty cool relationship.
You got a good relationship with Brad. Then.
Yeah.
I know some of the events I've seen him at. I'm like,
he's $50,000. He's $50,000.
Yeah, I thought it was probably in that 40 to 50 range at least. I'm like, I know he probably charged that.
Yeah. That's the craziest thing. The backing we're getting. Like Dan Martell will be out here in a couple of days. He's going to jump on my podcast that doesn't exist but does. I'm trying to bank 10 episodes before I launch it. Yeah. So like, we have some really like Bedros, if you know any of these names, we've got some really big people that when they come and see what we're doing, they want to rally behind it. Because it's so pure right now.
You're creating the avatar that is going to bind to their business as well.
We have deal flow in the back end. I'm actually teamed up with an M&A firm out of Newport Beach because we've had guys that I've taken to a level like Barndo is going to exit in 3 years for well over $100 million, guaranteed. Right. And they didn't have a business when they met me. So it's when you actually sit on the Shark Tank panels and you ask these guys, and I have a lot of like VC guys in my network and some big swinging billionaires, and I'm sure you guys do too. But the number one variable that they can't mitigate is the businessman. They can pick apart a business model in 2 seconds. They do it all day on Shark Tank. Like when you see the guys on Shark Tank that shit the bed, they might have the most sound model ever, but if they're shitheads, they're not getting the deal. Because I'm not putting a $20,000 or $20 million check in your hand, even if I'm like monitoring. I don't want to have to monitor it closely. Why am I investing? Yeah. But like if I don't, if you're cheating on your wife and you're doing fucking coke downtown and your business model's awesome, you're not ever going to get in front of an investor and win. Yeah. So what we've been able to do is actually mitigate that variable for them. Basically, I have now become a pipeline for the Newport Beach company where it's like, you have a sound thing, but you're not ready. Go talk to Alfano and go through his program for a year and come back. Because I would buy your business model, but I won't give you a fucking dollar. And I don't have time to turn this thing upside down. So like now we're become kind of a vetting system for the entrepreneur, for guys that have a sound, viable model that don't know how to get
pretty awesome.
access to funds. You know what I mean? So we become like this little conduit to capital.
Love it.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna make you this promise. We're gonna do one at my resort, and I promise you it won't cost you $30,000 or $45,000. We'll do it at the cost that you can put some coin back in the pocket, and we'll make this thing great. So,
I would love you for that, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
We'll
That's
sit
like
down.
I
We'll
say,
talk
it's so
about it
interesting.
after it's
Why
over.
you never know what like you said. My man puts people in front of you, and we are struggling right now because we got punked on some wedding spots. The reality is we weren't going to run another front end event. The way protocol works is it's a $9,000 experience that it culminates in an event.
Yeah.
And that event is aggressive, so we run that at the Elysium down the street.
Yeah.
Because we don't need fancy shit. Because I need them to want it.
Well, here's the good thing. There was all these straight line winds about a year ago that come through and knocked down a bunch of our trees, and then we also had a select cut come in because we're getting ready to put up more cabins and stuff eventually. So there's all kinds of trees. We can go out there in the woods and we can chop wood all day long. So
That's part of the thing. No, here's what I'm working on. I'm trying to work a deal out with Barndo because they're moving to Nashville. They've been working with some Mennonites out here. I was like, look, bring all the raw material, and part of my events will be build this shit. You know what I mean? Like, what?
Let's go.
You could teach a man a lot about himself building
Let's
raising a
build
barn.
some cabins. Let's build some cabins at the Buffalo River
Yeah,
Resort.
so we can get some cabins knocked out.
Yeah. Or at least some of those glamping tip platforms. Those would be cool to build.
Yeah.
And the Flying Ham just went out of business. They're actually selling all their glamping tents and all the cots and all that stuff. So it'd be good. We'll buy that stuff and then build them up.
That's it.
Well, so I've just been so intrigued by you, man, and I'm so thankful that y'all guys brought this guy on, and it turns out I've seen you before on the interwebs. That's my word. But so when you have this program, the first steps is obviously kind of dating and figuring out, are you a good fit for us? Are we a good fit for you? Can we help you actually increase what you're doing?
Yep.
And not just what you're doing monetarily, but what you're doing in life as a man.
Yep.
Are you being a better father? Are you being a better husband? Are you being a better person,
Yep.
In general? Which I think that's one of the biggest things we've always talked about on this podcast is we never wanted to just be like, hey, we've succeeded in our businesses. We've always wanted to be like, hey, we've done good in our businesses, but what we've really done good at is becoming better human beings. We've become better husbands. And we talk about the differences in men and women and how we handle certain situations differently than they do, and they handle stress in a way that I wouldn't handle it that way, but I had to learn perspective. Like, just because she don't do it the way I did it doesn't mean that she
That's
didn't
wrong.
do it correct. And so those are all things that's really helped me just since we started this podcast, and we're going on right at about a year now, a little over. I think we might be one or two episodes over a year. But it's been one of the coolest things because I've learned so much about myself. And sometimes when we're in the middle of these podcasts, I start talking to myself about, boy, you ain't doing that. You better start doing that shit better. There's things that he'll say that I'm like, oh crap, he's better than me.
Well, I agree too. I'll tell you this: one of the quickest ways to level up is get you a bunch of people to pay you to teach them to level up. Because I have no choice now. Like everyone's looking at me. I got to lead from the front, from a place of like, I got to be on my shit. I got to do my maps. I got to stay fit.
Yeah.
I got to date my wife. I got to, I got to build this thing to a certain thing. Like it's just like you want to talk about a new level, new levels, new devils, man. There's accountability on this platform is next level. Man.
It's funny you bring that up because I was thinking during this process, and I've thought this a lot here lately. Vinny knows that I've stepped back from a lot of things that I was doing, and
Things you love, even.
yeah, and a lot of it felt like that I was giving up, but a lot of it too is realizing I don't think that I'm ready for what I wanted to do. Like when you made the remark, like stepping up. I changed a lot as far as like I stopped drinking. I said a lot of things that I started changing because I realized in order to be the leader that I desire to be, I've got to actually be doing all those things. And I think that I started backing off because it's like I have to create the man the same way I did, for my kids as a father. I have to create the man that I want to be in order to teach someone else. And so I think even with like our nonprofit, the charity program, I've not had the desire there as much as I did at one point because I think at some point you start going through all these layers with everybody else.
Yeah.
And you undercut you
develop a little imposter syndrome almost. You're
right.
like, hey.
You start to understand who
Yeah.
you are. And
Yeah.
you're like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not near.
So we have these 5 L's that we teach our guys, which is part of the journey. Step 1 is learn it, which part of protocols we teach you as much of our process as possible, and then you have to live it. So learn, live, and then you're qualified to lead it because you can't lead something you're not living. 'Cause otherwise, you won't fully be able to step in because you'll constantly be second guessing yourself. And I struggle with this too. Sometimes I'll go a month without fully doing the work that I'm like demanding of my guys and holding them fiercely accountable to. And so, yeah, learn it. Then you have to live this thing. Then you can lead it. And the next step is leverage it, which is how you actually, at scale, start to build a team, which is kind of where I'm at in my journey, where I'm building a team to try to leverage all of these skill sets that I built over the years so I can impact more people. And then the last L is legacy, which is figuring out why did you do it all to begin with, and how can you actually leave a legacy. So the aim for this, and this still is a bit of an ego play, is like, what are people going to say about you when you're gone? How many people did you impact? How big of a dent did you leave on this planet before you left? And that's like, so learn it, live it, lead it, leverage it for your legacy. And then if when you see the framework that we've designed around that, it's just a good guidepost for like, why? Because otherwise, and that's why you got to get them clear on your why and your purpose. Why are you doing this shit? Yeah. What's your legacy? To make bank, bro? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing?
The why.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the why.
Yeah.
The why.
Yeah.
And I think the why for most of the world is that bank, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I think that's why.
But then you ask them one more time, why?
Right.
You see, and then if you keep hitting someone with the why enough, they'll just fall over.
But and I think that's why
did this
some
when I was
of
a
us
kid.
struggle
Why?
with getting to that next level, because we came out of the gate knowing that why wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
If you tell me that it's about money, I lose all interest in it.
Yeah.
I need money. We
Sure.
all need money. But if I know that this is purely just about money, I don't give a shit about it anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so I
we've
think a lot
talked
of us
about
get
that.
lost in that, because you're like, your why is not good enough for me.
Yeah.
And then you're just lost, not knowing, well what why is then? And
So the
how do I
friction
find
there,
it?
what I would push back on is like, who cares what their why is? Well, you have to figure out what your why is, obviously, because the thing is, like, where I'm at now. So one of the things I was guilty of an entrepreneur, and this was a line I heard from Warren Buffett: the average millionaire has 7 sources of income. So I went and opened up 7 LLCs because I was a hustler. So I had my law firm and collections and a clothing company and a cannabis company. And so I had all these things. And then I was like douchebag that was like, what you meet at a networking thing, like, hey, what do you do? You're like, what don't I do? Yeah, I mean, like, I was that fucking guy. And the reality is now I have a series of questions that I'll ask myself, and I won't entertain anything if it's out of alignment with my assignment, is what I call it. And so I know what I'm called to do for the rest of my life. And so if something's going to take me from that path. Now, there are some ancillaries that can be involved with this. So, for example, like these different ascension models that I've created inside the program, my goal is to step away and mainly deal with the guys at the profit table, because I can increase their net worth to a place where we can make a massive dent with guys like Matt Murphy and et cetera. And I know this is where my skill set lends itself to the program. So, like, I developed this a little selfishly, because this is what I enjoy the most, is like scaling companies and then showing them how to take that money. And don't, like, if you're trying to buy a new Ferrari or a bigger house, I'm not the guy. This is not the container. It's not what the fuck we do. Like, I'm going to show you how to make money, but I'm going to make sure I vet you first and build you first. So when you have that money, we can make the biggest impact. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just, more money doesn't fix shit. It just makes you more of who you already are.
Yeah.
The good news is I know what we've already done with little money, so I know what we've
That's what I'm saying. So, and so that's what I'm saying. How do we start to shift? Because right now, and this is a bit of a soapbox, but there's only good and evil in this world.
Yeah.
And who's winning? Evil's winning.
Yeah.
Big time. They're heavily funded. They're better funded because they're willing to do the shit that at our core
Absolutely.
we won't do.
Yeah.
Right.
They lack the integrity, so they're winning. And my mission on this earth is to swing that pendulum as far over back to the good guys, because I know if I help you make an extra $20 million, I know what you're going to do with that shit.
Yep.
So I have to help you make money.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
obviously, we have a whole nother discussion I'd like to have you with you, not on the podcast, but
Sure.
because what you're doing with these businesses is so closely related to what we're doing with the youth. Mm-hmm. And our thought on it, and it came from an addict's brain, because I was on The Voice, and they announced me as a recovering alcoholic addict on there. Social media went nuts with everybody wanting to know, how did you get clean? How do I
They
get
didn't
my
let you
dad
know they were
clean?
going to do that, by the way.
No,
Yeah.
they announced it. That's how they announced me on stage. For
For the first time, you're like,
it
guys.
wasn't something we talked about.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, 14 million people just found out. Social media went nuts with people wanting to know how they could get help, how their father could get help, their mother, their brother, their
Beautiful.
sister, all this. And I literally, most people don't even know this exists, but on Twitter, there's a little dot on the right-hand corner up there. It's called
X.
It's
called
X.
X
X now, sorry. That little dot is representing the messages that you haven't answered. And mine, because of TV, would just stay one solid yellow line all the way down the screen. And I could scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, and you'd never move the line.
Wow.
There was that many people asking those questions. I dedicated at that time 3 to 4 hours every day
to try to fire
just
back.
trying to answer questions back. And you realize, like, I can't do this. This is not help. And you're not even getting to the core of people who actually need the help. You're just answering questions, right? So we developed this going into schools, talking to kids, because I thought, what better way to fix this issue than to
nip
go
it in
to
the
the
bud, get them young, absolutely.
Right. And so what you're talking about, so much of the stuff that you're saying it's said differently because you're talking to businessmen versus us looking at, what is that purpose and getting that kid to find a mentor, getting them to understand that, hey, what goes on TV, that's life too.
Sure.
But the way you're going about it and just going, well, I'm going to be an influencer.
Yeah.
Great. Do you know any influencers? Do you know how they did? Do you understand the work that they
do? How and why? I can unpack any grown man with those two words. Like, how? How you going to do it? How you gonna do
Absolutely.
it? Why do you want that? How you going to do it? Why do you want it? And there's
so,
it's just the Tyson fight, bro.
We've created this small curriculum that breaks it down, but I'd love to talk to you sometime about that. How does that fit in with what you're doing? And do you see, because our issue, like, obviously you found a way, like, these are businessmen.
Yeah.
They can afford to pay this.
Sure.
With what we're doing, it's a free thing that you're doing for these kids. And we've also found out to get in, we have to make it free for any sort of public thing, schools or rehabs or anything like that.
Obviously,
because
step one
if they pay me, then they control what I say to a degree.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea of the program. If you're going to control what I'm saying,
it's not going to work. Yeah. So you can't even take government subsidies or anything. Yeah.
Right.
You can't even take any sort of state funding for this. Yeah. I mean, there's private money out there that would fund this because they believe in the outcome. And they know this country's in a bad spot. And if you can grab the kid young while he's still in his formative years, before 14, and really start to do some deep work on him, the impact that has versus because I'm grabbing them. Imagine 35. I'm 42, so I've had 6 cut and pastes of a set of cells, and I just started doing the work 5 years ago. So I've definitely noticed a pattern. I've got 21-year-olds and I've got a 60-year-old. I've got a few 55-year-olds actually. And so the older they are, that whole can't teach an old dog new tricks. It's a lot harder to reprogram it and get into the subconscious mind of a guy that's just stuck in his ways. But my younger guys, I say a sentence. I love that I say this sentence a lot, and I wish I could say it more. I will have a 21, 22, 23-year-old in my group with 50-year-olds, and the things that he's saying and the questions he's asking and the way he's digesting this data, if I thought like that at his age, it'd be game over. So it's very refreshing, but I don't have enough of them, I guess is what I'm getting at. So I would love an opportunity to so the question is, how do you monetize this, right? Is what we're getting at. Yeah. So
because for a while we started putting on,
and not monetize it from a place of buy some more Nikes, but from a place of how do we touch? We can't get to more people if we don't.
Well, we did that. We did it to a point to where we spoke at 7 schools this week, because we'd speak 2 or 3 a day.
Yeah.
And we played one show that made us just enough money to be able to go do this and go back to my wife and be like, I made $1,500 this week.
Sure.
So, but you were gone for 7 days.
It doesn't work out, And then we tried the theory too of having it as a nonprofit and pulling your money that way. And what I learned there was, I'll spend more time trying to get you to give me your money than it takes me to just go make money.
You
literally feel sick. You feel sick to your stomach. It's like, I'm not really doing what I said I was going to do because I'm working too damn hard just trying to get someone to give me the money to do it.
So it's a separate, to your point, and so professional fundraising, you'd have to get a team together.
Oh, and the professional fundraising, for us, we saw a lot of holes in it. Because when someone goes, we spend, 70% of every dollar this way. It's like, after you learn the rules and regulations of taxing and everything else with nonprofits, you go, because you're shifting this over here and this over here and this over here. And it looks that way. But the reality is the amount of time that is spent trying to get that dollar still had to be paid for as well.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
So the galas and the fucking fundraisers and the drinks and the band, if you guys bring in Aldine or your crew, the reality is, What I've seen work in the past is whoever you're going to source the money from. So there's guys out there, and you have them in your pocket too, whereby $100,000 to them is like $100 to us. And again, this is the character arc of the entrepreneur. They have this massive philanthropy bone in their body that they just want to leave. And some of them it's from guilt. They've made so much money and they kind of rob the marketplace that they feel obligated to give a bunch back. But what I've noticed, where I'm getting with this, is they want to feel it. So there's 6 chemicals that run our whole life. Dopamine's number 1, which is why my addicts crush entrepreneurship once I get them their dopamine from the right source. But oxytocin and serotonin are the strongest. And oxytocin usually comes from actually engaging in love, not always sex, but like literally holding hands, etc. It's like that new relationship feeling. But serotonin is just helping another human being. So like if I get a voice note from a guy because he had a huge shift with his daughter and he hasn't talked to her in 2 years, like I get such a serotonin drop, you'll never replace that by giving me another $1,000. So I guess what I'm getting at is what I've noticed with the guys that are willing to give, they want to actually experience, not only see where their money's going, because the transparency out there with nonprofits is so fucked and people are not spending it the way that's supposed to, and some of them just get caught.
That's
in all
the reason we started our whole company.
Yeah. What I guess what I'm saying is try to create opportunities whereby whoever's going to help donate somehow has that chemical reaction because they're somehow present for these moments, so that you're making these shifts in these kids, or just like when you guys talked about earlier about having a girl or a different guy come up to you and they just want to share what they're fucking going through because nobody listens to them, and you guys got to share that moment. Like you experienced serotonin, I guarantee it. So what does it look like for him to have that? I'm gonna cry right now. What does it look like for him? Him or her to have that moment?
That's exactly, and you're saying it perfectly, because the question that we would always get when we were fundraising and doing this, like, hey. And a lot of times the fundraising we do is we'd put on some kind of show, and all the money that would come in through donations and stuff would go back into this. We would always split it with other charities. We raised over $900,000 for other charities.
Yeah.
But what we realized is whenever I would go to these guys, they're like, well, look, if I give my money to One Gen, which is a food bank that we work with pretty heavily, they're awesome. Because if I give them $2,500, I know that it buys a whole truck full of food to go feed kids.
Yep.
Or homeless families or whatever. It's like, what is it that your company does? Like, well, we go in and speak, and our hopes is that we leave something behind to these kids that they can take and put into their lives.
Yeah, so you can't deliver a tangible ROI like units of
and so and Jared would say it the best, because he'd say, what's the price of a life? Because we can show you direct messages we've got from kids saying, I literally was thinking about killing myself today. And when I heard you speak, and I realized that, man, I don't have it as bad as what you went through. Or, man, I can make it out of this bad situation. I mean, that's huge. And we've copied and pasted and showed some of that. But there's no like you said, there's no like, hey, you're going to buy $2,500 for $2,500.
Yeah,
you're going to do this. For just $37 a month, you can feed this homeless kid in Africa, whatever.
Well, the dog gets more money than the kids on those commercials.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Well, and so
Sarah McLachlan's
but it's interesting just the way you said it, because that's the actual questions that we've always gotten. We've seen it, and we've always said if we could bring,
we've invited donors out, they don't show up.
Yeah, like if I
well, they all value their time. I think you need to find the avatar who's been there, who's benefited from this directly, but doesn't have
absolutely.
Either maybe doesn't have the time to give back, but has the extra liquid, or we just appreciate actually going there, because you are going to run into people with that kind of money. Usually don't want to spend their time in that arena, unless, like I said, my experience, and I haven't raised money forever, is like finding the person who was directly impacted from what you guys are doing, and has the liquid, which obviously is a bit of a tough find because you've got two checks there.
I mean, it's a cool.
Well,
idea,
what do you need money for?
Right now? I got so burnt out on the whole idea of it that I was like. I don't want to pursue that.
What do you need? What do you need just to make it make sense for your time? Is what you're saying? Like to go to keep doing these things with the kids? Like where are the funds going?
I think that's where it feels icky though to me too. So I'm like, I'd rather just make money somewhere else and then just go do this for free. But at the same time, you're like, I can't. Yeah. There's also pulling away from your family that you
well, it's not even just that.
Like,
it's also
I'm going out and giving to these other people, but my family needs me as well.
I don't worry about my four walls. These guys need me.
Yeah. That was got us. But also going out there, a lot of times we go out there and it's just me and him, and then it's like we got sound systems, we got a lot more stuff we need other people doing. We need pamphlets, we need people at a table that's going to help kids with information. We need other things.
That people don't even understand. Of like, a lot of this is just the show too. The bigger the show is, the more you have those kids' attention.
If you don't have their attention,
and the
story don't
reality
land.
is like if I can walk out there with a digital wall behind me, it changes the game completely.
Oh yeah,
so like you have them, and they're like, I mean, half the time they're only listening to me because. Right before I went out there, I put out an Instagram picture of me and Megan Fox. That's the like. Then they go, oh, I got to listen to him because he knows people.
Yeah, he knows people.
Like, I did a school up in Cleveland one time, inner city school, and walked in, and probably 90% black. I walk in my overalls, pale white as a ghost. I'm going to go talk to these kids, and pictures of me on Biggest Loser are the first things that start kind of popping up behind me on this big screen behind me. And I hear dudes making fun, like, look at that, like I hear them. All of a sudden, the picture of me and Tim Tebow pops up. And wait, they just focused immediately.
Yeah.
And then it was a picture of me and Eric Dickerson. Then it was a picture of, and so that one, they would actually listen to the story. And then when they heard the story, they're like, well, wait a second. I thought there was no way this white boy ever had it as bad as what I got it,
Yeah.
And then they were willing to listen. And then you get done of it, and you come up like, man, I had no clue that you would have ever went through stuff like that. And then you find that common ground. And I think he got to meet with 50 Cent one time. It was what was the movie? Expendables 4. He was out there meeting with him, and he said, yeah, he asked him, he goes, do you do well with the urban population? And Jared's like, yeah, I don't know why, but I'll let you take that because I think it's a pretty interesting.
I said, yeah, but I'm not sure why, and I don't really have anything in common. And he goes, I'll tell you why. He's like, because for me growing up in an urban area, he was like, there was the gangster, there was a drug dealer, same thing. He was like, and there was grandma. He was like, the gangster and the drug dealer had all the money, they had all the women, they had all the cars, they had all the stuff, they had the jewelry. He's like, they had all the cool factor, and they didn't give a shit. It's like, they didn't care, they weren't afraid of nobody. He was like, grandma, she had Jesus, and she taught you about Jesus, she taught you manners, and she told you all the things that you should and should not do, but grandma was scared of the gangster. It's like, so I have this one teaching me morals, but has fear. And I have this other one telling me I can do whatever I want to with no fear. And I have a choice to make between grandma or gangster. That's it. He was like, when you walked out there, you walked out with a pair of Louis Vuittons on. You walked out with this image of the gangster.
The tattoos
but you walked out with a message of morals like grandma. It was the first time that they had ever seen the gangster and grandma.
Yeah.
It was a third option.
Yeah, because I'm sure someone thought, how do I get both? Because I kind of like what this guy's going on, but I don't like how he's doing it. But I love her, but she's got a fear.
Right. It was like, so you walked out
You brought them
like a gangster.
But also the reason that I'm joining this gang is so that I can pay the bills for granny.
Yeah.
Right.
So, there's so many correlations.
So we saw that, and you gave them that third option. But it's more than what people think, and I think that's why, coming off of TV, why it works going out there and talking to these kids, because no one's ever showed up at their school. It doesn't matter that I'm not as famous as this other guy over here, because that guy ain't coming to their school.
Yeah.
No one on TV has ever showed up at their school.
Yeah.
So it's a moment, for them.
Yeah, I just think there's so much in it, and like you said, if we can start at the youth in those pivotal years.
Make my job easier. I don't got to reprogram them. Just can program right from Jump Street.
I can tell you though, the first time whenever he brought me in to speak, and I'd spoke at a lot of high schools. I started speaking. I think it was about the same year he was on The Voice, the same year I was on Biggest Loser. We both started kind of speaking, and I had a program called Music with a Mission. I brought him out to play with it. Play at the event because my backer for that event he owned a bunch of drug rehabs, and I knew he would. Identify well with Jared, and plus he would love Jared's music because he likes rock. But Jared came out and killed it and did all that. And then we started kind of speaking together. But, as we got out there, to these kids and started to realize I was always worried to tell my story to a 10-year-old, to a 7, 8-year-old, because it's dark, And Jared kind of pushed me. He's like, no, but he goes, but man, you were 10 when you went through that. You were 7 when you went through that.
Yeah.
So
which means there's another 7 and 10-year-old going through that.
Yeah, and so I started telling that story, and like I said, the first couple times I was timid when I was telling it, because like, man, should I say it like, I watched my mom put a gun to her head? Should I say it like he beat me till I bled? Should I say it? And finally I just started saying it, and then almost every time without fail, somebody would come up and be like, I'm going through that. I was going through that. I just got moved in with my grandma. The state just took my dad, whatever. And I just realized that message, there's kids out there just like me that have gone through the same things I went through. And
I mean, since then, too, we kind of walk in, because mine's drug-related, his is more physical abuse-related, that I typically walk in and go straight to the principal and go, hey, how deep do you want us to go in it?
Yeah.
What kind of area we're in? What are these kids seeing? And there's times that, like, we've been in an elementary school. I've had kindergarten through 3rd grade one time.
And they're like, go hard.
The guy, the principal was like, there's nothing you're going to say that these kids haven't seen.
Well, here's my...
holy crap.
Yeah, I'm obviously a framework and alliteration junkie, but if it's real and it's raw, it's probably relevant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's
I think authenticity is the best way to get to anybody.
So, I mean, to hit on that when you were talking about, sponsors and donors, I think it's turned me against that idea and thought, no, I need to make my wealth over here so I can just go do this.
Yeah.
Because realizing I need to not have to answer to you. Because
No, that
to
seems
keep
like
it
your
real
biggest
and
sticking
raw,
point. Yeah,
I have
absolutely.
to, and honestly, I brought the Louis Vuitton. I know that for me, his is different, but I know for me, the flashier I am, the more money I'm wearing when I walk out
You get
there,
the attention.
those kids
It's instant
are
authority.
immediately-
100%.
They watch it. I mean, and I only noticed it because it was like, I've been doing it probably a year. And somebody asked me in an interview, what's your most common question? And I was like, what am I driving and what am I wearing?
Yeah.
And when I said it, I was like, holy crap. Like it changed the way those kids.
Yeah, but that's
responded.
knowing your audience. Because if you don't capture the audience, it doesn't matter what comes out of your mouth. So, like, just knowing that is crucial. So, I mean.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't want to answer anybody because I know what works. So I was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm going to make money over here and then go
Yeah.
do what I want to do. But I miss
Well,
it.
and we've just seen so much. One of the questions he always asks is like, "Who's your favorite person and why?" And none of them very rarely ever say celebrities. Every now and then somebody says, "Oh, that's my favorite."
But
That's
even
who
when they do,
who I look
it's
up to.
for good reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Because there's some solid people out there that
the last one we was
demonstrate
in,
some
the
good
last
core
one-
values. Yeah.
The last one we was in, this girl, she raised her hand and she was pretty timid, and I was like, "Who's your favorite person?" She says, "Well, my favorite person is my big brother." And Jared said, "Okay, cool. Why?" It's like, "Well, when my mom and dad are screaming and fighting, he always puts the headphones on my ears and he holds me until they stop." And I just started bawling.
Oh, yeah.
Scene out of the
I'll be
movie. Because
there.
I've been there,
It's like, ugh.
But I mean, to me, it's like that was something that was so beautiful in that moment of like, you see this big brother protecting his little sister.
Yep.
And maybe didn't even have 2 sets of earphones, so maybe he's still sitting there listening
Yeah.
to every bit of this. And like I said, she never said that they beat her or that they hit each other. Just said that
That moment alone is so
Yeah,
powerful.
screaming and
Yeah,
arguing,
there's so much there. Yeah.
And I just, man, it got me. And a couple of the others, the one kid that got me that day, he said, "I know my dad loves me, but I don't ever get to spend any time with him because he always has to be out on the road trying to make money." And he was a truck driver, I believe, is what it was. And it's like, I just really wish that he could be home more because he's my favorite person. I wish I cried.
Yep.
He's like, I wish I could spend more time with him. And I'm like, we give all these kids hugs and everything. And I was able to tell him, I was like, look, just so you know, every second that your dad's gone, he's thinking about you.
Yeah.
Every second that he's on the road, he wishes he was home with you too. But I said he's doing the best he can, and just know that, he would much rather be home with you than out there driving that 18-wheeler across the country. And those are the moments to me that change. It's the reason it makes me want to go do it more. There's 900 kids sometimes in there. I don't know what's the biggest crowd we've had, but there's 900 kids in there, and it might only get to 10.
Yeah, it's only got to land on a few. Yeah.
But if it even lands on one,
Yeah.
tell him the story. I mean, this is one of my favorite moments about the kid that was cutting up, and you brought him on stage.
Oh yeah, this kid. So I do a lot of about 5 or 6 times a year. I'll go over to active war zones and play, and that's the other place where I know that's my thing, because I know that somehow I connect with those guys in a way that I don't connect to any other audience besides those kids. And it also happens to be the 2 places where I'm using speaking and using music in the same place, and I feel like I'm.
What's
I'm
the area
being
again?
used.
In where area?
War zones.
Oh, okay.
Like Jordan. We just got back from Kuwait.
Okay.
We used to do Bagram when there was still a base there, but all over the Middle East predominantly. And anyway, so I'm in Jordan, and this kid walks up to me and says, "Hey man, do you remember me?" And I was like, "Nah man, sorry, I meet a lot of people. What's your name?" And we start talking. He was like, "You came to my school 3 years ago." And I was like, "Oh, I did?" And he was like, "Yeah, you spoke." And I was like, "Cool." And one thing leads to another, and I said, "So what happened that day?" And he goes, "You seriously don't remember me, do you?" And I was like, "No." And he goes, "I was in the front row. Me and my buddies decided we were going to sit in the front row because we had to get a speaker today." And he was like, "And I was talking shit." And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "And you pulled me up." And then it hit me, and I was like, "And I pulled you up on stage." And he was like, "Yeah." And so then he starts telling his friends this story, because now I remember it. And he's like, so this guy pulls me up on stage, and he was like, "To ask me a question?" Nah. I just stand there, and he continues to talk, and I just stand there. And he was like, and then at one point he turned around and looked at me, and he goes, "This is me talking." And I said, "What grade you in?" And he was like, "I'm a senior." And I was like, "What are you going to do with your life?" And he was like, "I don't know." And you said, "You should probably think about that." And then you turned back around and continued to talk and just left me standing on this stage. And he was like, and you spoke for probably like 5 more minutes. And then you turned around and looked at me and went, you can go. And he was like, and I went down and he was like, no, I was pissed.
Yeah.
So pissed. I was like, screw this guy. No. And he was like, and without even realizing it, I went home and did exactly what you said to do to spite you, to show you.
I'll show him. I'll think real hard about what I'm doing.
And I was like, so what'd you, he's like, so what'd you decide to do that day? He was like, I went home and he's like, I started thinking about the things that I was gifted at and, you know, how that could be applied. And I started looking up jobs that would need that. And he was like, I really studied for like 4 hours trying to find a job that made sense to me in my life. And he was like, and I joined I decided that was air traffic controlman. And I joined the Air Force. And I said, so you're working on becoming an air traffic controlman? He was like, fuck no, bro. I'm an air traffic controlman.
For a war zone.
And I was like, you are one. And he was like, I am one.
Yeah.
And it was so just earth shattering. It was like on the other side of the world.
You never know what one moment, that's so powerful.
It's one of my favorite stories too.
I love it. I mean, we get to, you know, I get to be part of him telling a lot. Never gets old to me. And
well, I'm glad he walked up to him, had the nerve to be like, "Hey, you remember me playing?
Yeah.
Like, you remember me?" I mean, like,
What was his? That military training, beat down, and
And when Jared said he was like 6'5", so he's kind of like worried, like, "Oh crap." Yeah, who was it? Wentworth, played for the Rams this last year. It was big.
Oh, Whitworth, yeah, he's a
Whitworth.
big giver. Yeah, he won the award.
He played that year on the Bengals when they played in the Super Bowl. There was a kid that heard him speak at his school whenever he was a kid, whenever he was in high school, and he said before that day I didn't think I could ever be one that made it to the NFL or I could ever do it because nobody had ever done it from where we're from, you know. And he said, and that day he came in and spoke at our school. It made me realize, like, maybe I can do it. And now I'm in the Super Bowl
with him, yeah.
And, you know, playing lineman, you know, opposite, you know, of the guy that.
Oh, Walter Payton Award. That's the award they give out every year. He won it that year. Yeah,
it was just, that was an incredible story. I thought, man, if it is scripted, you can't script it no better than that.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Especially if they line up, like, you know what I mean? O and D line, like, what's up, player? You told me I could do it. Yeah, he's a big boy.
He was one of the best of all time. So we went way over time, which I love it. You know, I think we'll probably just turn this into 2 or 3 episodes, whatever we got to do. But that being said, man, I'm glad you're only, you know, 7 minutes up the road. I think we should have you at least once a month if you want to do it.
Come rage over here.
We're only in here once a month.
1 episode a month. That might turn into 3. No, I just think you're great, man. I love what you're doing. I love the fact that your mindset is to help, you know, make men better men. I think that's what Jesus was here to do. He was a fisher of men. You know, he was here to make us, to give us a blueprint, as you will, of this is what you can do to make it into heaven. You know, and you know, and I think that's what we're all really desire at the end of the day. Is some of us don't even know it yet. Most men don't know it. Like, your true thing that you're here to do is to serve God. You're put here on this earth to spread the love of Jesus Christ. You're put here on this earth to spread the word of God, so that hopefully all of us, you know, can be together in heaven one day and save as many souls from hell as we can. And I think the question that always comes in, people are like, well, you know, why would God create hell if he loved us? I'm like, well, God's not sending you to hell. You're on your way to hell, and he said, here's a doorway to not go to hell. Here's a way out. You know, and so I think that what you're doing is you're showing men that might have been a cheater for 17 years, that might have been on drugs or might have been obese.
They don't think there's a way out. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't think they're good enough.
Yeah,
and even if that they think there's a way, they don't think they deserve it. They don't think they're worthy of it. And I think we all battle that unworthiness, you know, sometimes from time to time in our life.
Absolutely.
And I think anything that you're going for in life, those doubts and those fears that come into you, the best way to combat that is to surround yourself with people that are going to be there to hold you accountable and say, nah, bro, like, you can do this. You don't need to go mess that up or do this or do that. So I think it's God's work that you're doing. You're doing, you know, what God, I think, put us on this planet to do, is to bring more souls to Jesus Christ, you know, bring more souls into heaven and to God. So if you make people better men, that's where they're going to end up. So Preach! Anyways, faith first, right?
With that too, I mean, I just want to say thank you for being on here, because it one of the cool things that God's done with us on this podcast is he keeps bringing us people to remind us that we're on the right track.
Yeah.
That we are moving in the right direction. Now, I definitely believe that someone like you could put us on a faster track to that, but hearing everything you said today was like, yeah, those are all the things that are going through my head. Those are what he's talking about, is what I'm trying to connect right now. But like you said, I go through a lot of my days being thankful just for the fact that I even have that thought, because I watch so much of the world
Hopeless
with no thought.
Yeah.
I always think back to the Switchfoot song that says, we were meant to live for so much more, but we lost ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just...
I'll never hear that the same again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome song.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, no. So it's funny. I think when you're younger and maybe just more naive, you listen to music for the music, the beat part, the whatever, right? And then the older you get, and you hear a song you've heard 1,000 times, and you know every word, and then at some point it just hits. You're like, holy shit, this is the most powerful song of all time. But you unpack lyrics.
The verse, the part of that song that hits me every time now is it says, "We want more than the words of our Father.
Damn,
we want more than this world's got to offer." And like everything about it is just going, we want more. And then you think about it from that addiction standpoint, you're like, yeah, I want more. I want more drugs. I want more women. I want more money. I want more food. I want more.
That's
because
dopamine.
Nothing here.
It is.
Nothing here is ever enough.
Yep. No, I feel selfish sometimes because like this thing is so rewarding for me when I get to like just help alter the trajectory of another man's life. I'm like, I'm the most selfish mother ever on the planet.
I tell those kids that every time. I was like, hey, I'm
winning
the one
here.
that's benefiting here.
I don't think you get it.
Speaking you today,
Yep.
I'm gonna walk away from this feeling
I'm like,
amazing.
I tie off before I go on stage. I'm like, all right, give me a shit.
That's facts.
Yeah.
I think that's. I mean, you deserve to feel that way. You deserve to feel that way when you're doing good in the world, and as long as you don't let it turn into pride.
I'm gonna have that in my head every time now. Right before I hit stage.
About to get it, baby. Start tapping dopamine. When I was on Biggest Loser, they come in. I'll never forget the doctor come in. He talks like this. He's like, okay, guys. So what's happening is when you're eating this food, one cheeseburger is what you have at first. But then after a couple of cheeseburgers, then you want more cheeseburgers. He's like, so take Vinny, for example. Vinny, you love cheeseburgers. I'm like, I do. I love them things. And you love pizza. Yeah. And he goes, what you really love is dopamine. I'm like, huh? He's like, no, you love dopamine. Because that dopamine dump that you're getting from that burger, and then you need more burgers because one burger's not enough. So now you need 2, and then you need 3, and it's a dopamine dump. And that's what you're really getting for it. And eventually it gets so much that you can't get enough of it, so you eat more and more. And I was sitting there, I was like, okay.
Man, I want a cheeseburger.
Does this end with a cheeseburger? Yeah. How does this end? This story sucks.
The good news is, listen, at Biggest Loser, you couldn't make any bad decisions because they
weren't there. Yeah.
No, I mean, you could make a burger.
That's the way I felt about rehab. It was really easy.
No, really easy. That you could make a burger, but it was going to be a 99% lean bison meat. You know?
Yeah. I love a good bison burger.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Wow.
So when I first come off that show, I'm like, dude, I'm going to eat like this every day. I'm going to eat all organic. I'm going to do all this stuff.
And you open the pantry, it's like, just decisions, just choices.
It's whenever I got home and I went to go pay for all those organic groceries and all those grass-fed beefs and all that other stuff. I'm like, I'm going to have to make a lot more money. I told my wife now, so we actually spend more money on groceries in a month than we spend on our house payment.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. We do.
My personal diet, my wife always bitches like a 240 trying to eat clean. I'm well into the 15, 16
carnivore
a month. No, but it's all grass fed. I eat a lot and yeah.
We all started the carnivore about a month ago.
Yeah.
And,
we're still getting into it. We're still learning, but we're doing better.
It's still somehow it's cheaper. Somehow it's been cheaper on me because it's just. I mean, it's good quality steak and stuff that I'm picking up, but there's none of all the crap.
Sides, all the stuff around all the filler. Yeah. I believe it. I mean, everything's to the roof right now. So, I mean, Hyder's got, they kill a cow every year and just put it in the freezer. And it takes them about half a year to get through the whole cow.
So, a good friend of ours just opened back, finally,
Yep.
his butcher shop in the borough, Tennessee Craft Butcher.
Because it's a game changer. You stay on, like, legit organic grass-fed meat for, like, 6 months. So it's almost hard to go back. It's so... You feel completely different.
And you taste the difference, too.
Well, we were talking about, too, even like I said, I just got back from Kuwait and being over there for 3 weeks. For 3 weeks of us eating good beef. And then you get over there and you're having to, like, eat airport food. And that was the first thing I noticed. Was like I ordered a steak at some, nicer place in the airport. And it still was like, this is crap. Like, you could just taste that it wasn't quality.
And gut, everything starts in the gut. So,
man, what are you doing
right,
over there?
all I know is there's a joke going on between our producer and Bigg Vinny.
No, I'm just proud because this is I feel like we just started this one and we've been 94 minutes. So that tells me that this is awesome.
We just need to get some cigars and bourbon.
Yeah, just put the cameras, put these things away. Let's Anyway.
Can we smoke in here, Jim?
Your name is Jim. Bean. No. Well, look, man, we appreciate you. I've learned a lot today. I want to continue to work with you. We'll talk about all the other stuff. But with that being said, y'all, we're at the end of this episode. This is actually going to be 3 episodes because we've done an hour and a half and another 5 minutes on this one. And then I think we did 80 minutes or so on the last one. So we're going to chop this up into 3 episodes. You're going to listen to it. You're going to love it. You're going to want to come back for more because you don't want to miss the next thing that happens and the next thing that gets said. So with that being said,
Our boys info, where they can find.
Oh yeah, yes. Where can they find you? Give us all the details on your Instagrams.
He's contemplating how loud he wants to be, so he probably doesn't like this question. But he needs.
Yeah, I don't do well here. I'm just like, to your point, like I don't know how to shamelessly plug. So like even my team, my coaches and stuff are like, dude, you never ever like tell people how to like grow this thing. Reprogram.ai is the site. The Nick Alfano, and then I'm a big fan of just like giving back to your audience. So timewithnick.net is the best way to get on my calendar. And if someone just heard something that they want to unpack a little more, like I won't put you on with my coaches. I'll personally take at least a half-hour call. So if you jump on timewithnick.net, and if you came from this podcast, just mention it, and then it'll make sure to get routed to my calendar, and I could spend some time with you unpacking something, because I think that's the best way to add value to someone.
Can we make sure we put all the links in when Trent does it on all the different ones?
We'll make it happen.
And I know we got to do that for Brian too.
It's done.
Okay. Yeah. Well, with that being said, like, share, subscribe, give us 5 stars, give us more. Tell all your friends, tell your sister, tell your mom last time, tell your sister. Your sister's going to love this podcast individually because it's going to teach you how to be a better man. And in 2024, we all need to learn how to be better men.
That's exactly.
Redefine Life Podcast. We outie, baby.